because I love telling people where I'm from.
Of course,
I'm,
of course,
yeah,
of course.
I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois. And one of the reasons why I tell people that is because, when you come from an impoverished city, a small impoverished city like that, where it's a crime-ridden environment, things do happen. But people don't expect you to be successful. People kind of write this narrative or form this narrative about you, and then they just expect you to fall in line with whatever that may be, right? So oftentimes in East St. Louis, it's the whole narrative like, you're gonna be a baby mama probably at 23, you're gonna be, I mean, seriously, I hope that's not offensive to anyone. But I just say that to say that people try to define you when you come from places like that, and you can't define me. I will not be defined. And so that's one of the reasons why I always tell people the very first thing, I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois. So yeah. Um, what else do you want to know about me?
Uh, well, I already got a tangent that I want to go down real quick because I find it so interesting. I didn't actually know that you were from East St. Louis, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So the St. Louis and part of the St. Louis in me is just like East St. Louis. Yeah, okay, you know what I'm saying? Because you know how we are. You know how we.
Exactly. You know what's so funny though? What is so funny is there's oftentimes, because I've been in rooms, I've been in rooms where I was the only Black girl in the room, and it'll be men, usually white men, telling me, you should tell people you're from St. Louis because actually East St. Louis has a better rep than East St. Louis. And I'm like, you clearly missed it. You missed the point. you
Yeah.
know, like you miss how impactful it is for those kids. One, I'm not gonna do that. Number one. Number two, no shade. You from St. Louis. But number two, it's like it's important for the kids from that community, from the impoverished community, from my community, to see people that look like them, that been through the streets that they've been through, went through all that, to see them make it. Like it's so important for them. And I don't think when you come from like such a small city like East St. Louis, the people that make it, quote unquote, a lot of them don't come back to the city, right? They go on, they move to, the suburbs. Some people move out of state. But there is some of us that stay, and there is some of us that come back to give back. And even if that's just representation, hey, you see me, I'm here, I'm in your community, I'm in the grocery store with you. So that's important for them to be able, for them, those students, those kids, people in the community to see that.
I absolutely agree with what it is that you're saying. And I love that you are proud of where you come from. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I say it in a joking manner because that's
Yeah.
just how we are. But,
And we know how it is. We know what's up.
yeah, we know how it is. But I mean, honestly, it's important because I mean, even a part of the reason why we do this show, right, is to show that we can come from where we come from.
Exactly.
And you know what I'm saying? It is more representation out there than what we see. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Um, and I find it funny because there was an episode that I did with my dad, and we talked about St. Louis. It was called Special St. Paul, where Ashton and I were talking about St. Louis, and he was actually talking about how at one point in time, East St. Louis was an up and coming city.
That's true.
And I was like, huh?
That's
And
true.
he was like, he literally said, you better believe it, because they were building that up to
That's
be
true.
something great. And the reason why I couldn't comprehend it is because I see what it is now, and what it's been for the majority of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't mind, like going that way with me a little bit, can we explain to the audience what it's like in East St. Louis? We're alluding to it, but let's actually talk about it for a second.
Yeah, for sure. So we can talk about that. And before we talk about that, I want to go back and just comment on what you're saying. That's absolutely true. I mean, one of the reasons why how my mom even got to East St. Louis was because it was an up and coming city. And a lot of Blacks from the South started migrating to the East St. Louis and St. Louis because they could get jobs. There was job opportunities there. And what actually ended up happening, because a lot of industries was there. I mean, a lot. And what actually ended up happening was, I don't know if you're familiar with the 1917 race riot that happened in East St. Louis. But a
I've
lot of
heard of
white,
it.
yeah, a lot of whites were becoming upset because here you have all these Black people coming from the South, and they're getting the jobs because they may take a smaller pay, than you would. And it's like, well, hold up, because where the jobs are for us? So we gotta do something about this. And then I mean, a lot of people, like relative to that time period, a lot of people died in those riots. A lot of Black people died in those riots. And Marcus Garvey actually came out and he did some kind of, I don't want to call it a protest. It wasn't really a protest, but he had an event in East St. Louis where he kind of brought the news and the media out, and he brought up some of this stuff. He talked about this and just called it like, one of the saddest days in America, because it was just like, wow, and we see that everywhere. That's not unique to East St. Louis. We saw it in Tulsa, we saw it in, all these other different places where it happened. So that's kind of how the race riots happen, and then you slowly start seeing the industries move out of East St. Louis, taking all the jobs. Like, oh, okay, we can't kill you off. We just gonna move all the jobs out of the city. And now, Marissa, it's like it's been so long. Like, we talking about decades, and the city still has not recovered. The city still has not recovered from that. The average like annual salary in East St. Louis is just over $21,000.
Whoa.
21,000. That's it. So you can imagine, and we're talking about just a whole host of issues, not only just pertaining to like the safety of the community, because what does it mean when you don't have you don't have ways to kind of implement taxes or fees or things like that would actually garnish cities money, because this is how the cities get their money. And what does that mean for the police department? What does that mean for the streets? What does that mean for the education system? Like, what does that mean? And so while it's very, there's people in the city that want to see it change, and that's working towards the change, and it is becoming better. We do have a lot of things that's going on. Jackie Jordan Cursive, when she won the Olympics and her money, she started the Jackie Jordan Cursive Center in East St. Louis, and they're doing great work. They're still to this day doing great work. I'm actually working on some programs with them over there, teaching kids how to grow their own food and be sustainable, which is very important. And let me tell you why. Because in the city of East St. Louis, how many do we have? We probably have 2 grocery stores. 2. Yeah. And they're owned by individuals that do not live in the community at all, that do not reflect the members of the community. And so you'll go in the grocery store, and right hand, I've been in the grocery store shopping in a grocery store, and you'll see food that's molded. You'll pick some off the shelf that's expired. My mom was so pissed maybe like a few weeks ago, because we was trying to fry some catfish, okay? But
yeah,
she bought something, and we got to the house, and getting ready to use it, and she like, what? That's expired. So like there's people that's trying to shift the culture, that's trying to shift the way in which people perceive East St. Louis, but actually just trying to build up the community, because it is still very much, even though it's been decades since the riots, since the industries moved out, that happened, is still very broken. Companies do not want to come there because of, the narrative of East St. Louis, what it is. And, there's a little bit of truth in some things. And so I understand it. I understand their hesitation, but it's only going to perpetuate the problem if no one actually steps in to offer some solutions.
That's true. That's true. And I just there's 2 things that I want to do. One, I want to highlight what you said about the food deserts, and that's interesting because I actually just got done having a conversation. The episode before this one comes out is with a girl named Chanel, and she does homesteading. She has like her own garden, and she's from St. Louis as well. And a lot of what she does is showing people how to grow their own food and be self-sustaining, because it's literally what you said, how we live in these food deserts, and the food that you have on your shelves is moldy, and you can't eat it, or you don't have fresh produce and access to all of these things. It's easy to get a convenience store, but you can't get food that actually sustains you. And she was actually talking about how in North County, they're opening a bunch of farmers markets
Mm.
to get people access to fresh food. And she actually gave a lot of resources as far as how people can gain access to fresh foods.
I love
So
it.
if y'all are interested in finding out more, check out that episode. She drops a lot of knowledge about that and that
Okay.
subject, you know, because it is important, because what we feed ourselves is important. And we come from areas that are food deserts where we don't have the access to
Mhm.
the foods and the things that we need. And it's important. And that's why it's important to highlight when we are doing these things to change these narratives and to really give back and get access to the things that it is that we need, because we already know we can't expect other people to help us. We
Mhm.
have to be that change.